Today we will talk about the complete VCA component of the Theremin. We will test the VCA on a breadboard, assemble it on the Theremin perf board, and finally connect it to the mixer and to the volume resonant circuit. With that, we can start listening to the actual voice of the Theremin and start playing with it, even though there are still a couple of missing pieces. Let's get going! Here is the schematic of the whole VCA. Transistor Q2, along with components C1, C2, C5, R1 and R3, constitutes the first stage of the VCA, which we examined in the previous Theremin episode. You can watch that video at the URL listed in the description of this video. As we said in that episode, the signal at the collector of transistor Q2 is a DC voltage with an amplitude inversely proportional to the distance of the hand from the volume antenna. The closer the hand to the volume antenna, the higher the voltage on the collector of transistor Q2. However, what we really need is a voltage that is directly proportional to the distance of the hand from the antenna, so I added a second stage made up of transistor Q3 to invert the proportionality from the first stage. Now, at the collector of transistor Q3, we have a signal that decreases its amplitude when the hand gets closer to the volume antenna. The signal from the second stage of the VCA is then used to control the resistivity of the N-channel of JFET Q1. The lower is the voltage at the gate of the JFET, the greater is the resistance of the channel. So, when the hand is close to the volume antenna, the low voltage at the gate of the JFET blocks most of the audio signal coming from the mixer, and therefore the volume is minimal. Vice versa, when the hand is far away from the antenna, the signal at the gate of Q1 is higher and the resistance of the N-channel is lower, so the volume of the audio signal is higher. Note that the pin 1 of the JFET is the drain and the pin 3 is the source. Here is the whole VCA circuit mounted on a breadboard. You can see the connection with the ground, which goes to the ground of the actual Theremin, so we can use the rest of the Theremin to test the VCA. Then we have the positive power supply right over here and the negative power supply that are provided with this device. And then here's the circuit itself. So this first piece on top here is the first stage that we already saw in the previous video, which is right here. You can see there is a transistor which has two resistors that goes to 12 volts power supply and a couple of capacitors that basically act as a filter for the noise present in this point. So here's the transistor. Let me make a close up so you can better see what's going on. Here's the transistor. On its collector we have this resistor here, which is the 10 kilo ohm, and then this other resistor that goes to the power supply. And then we have these two capacitors, this one and this one, that basically provide the filtering at the collector of the transistor. The base of the transistor goes directly to the output from the volume resonant circuit, and that is this connector over here, which goes all the way back to the output of the volume resonant circuit. Moving on, we can see there is another capacitor here, 10 nanofarad, which is between the collector and ground, and this is the one that basically levels up the signal over here and converts it to a DC voltage of variable amplitude, and that is this capacitor here. Then we go to the second stage. So we have a resistor of 68K, which is connected to the collector of transistor Q2 and goes directly to the base of transistor Q3. So here is transistor Q3, right here, and this is the resistor 608K, which connects that to the collector of the first stage. The rest of the second stage is basically analogous to the one of the first stage. There is a transistor Q3 with the emitter connected to ground, and then there is a resistor 10K and 1K that go to the 12-volt power supply. And then we have a couple of capacitors, C3 and C4, that are used to filtering out the noise coming from the power supply on this point. So the Q3 transistor will be powered with a perfectly stable voltage. So if we take a look here, this is the transistor in question. The base is connected directly to this resistor, as we saw already before, and this resistor goes directly to the collector of the other transistor through this red wire. Then the emitter is connected directly to ground, and the collector is connected to this resistor, which is the 10K one, and this one, which is the 1K that goes to the 12-volt power supply. In between this point, there are these two capacitors, this and this, which are the 10 microfarad and 0.1 microfarad that are used to filter out the noise present in this point. Then on the collector, there is finally another resistor that goes out, and that is this resistor here, which is basically the resistor of 170K that we see in the schematic. This resistor basically controls the voltage at the gate of the JFET, helped also by the resistor R7, which reduces a little bit the amplitude of the signal from the collector. And then the JFET is connected through its drain to the signal of the input from the mixer, basically. So here it receives the audio coming from the mixer, and the audio comes out from the source to the output that goes to the audio preamp. Another resistor R8 here is used to polarize correctly the JFET. So if we go to look at here, here is the JFET. Let me zoom in. The JFET is over here. The polarization resistor on the source is right here. This is the resistor coming from the previous stage that goes directly to the gate of the JFET. And then there is this connector here, from here to here, that comes directly from the output of the mixer. So here, this one basically is the audio input to the VCA, and this one instead is the output of the VCA that goes directly to the preamp of the Theremin. So basically now these circuits connect completely. Let me show you on the diagram over here. So basically now the VCA is connected directly to the mixer on one side, to the volume resonance circuit on the other side, the two inputs, and the outputs its signal to the audio preamp. So actually now we have all this part of the circuit completed, and we can actually hear the signal, the audio signal from the speaker of the Theremin, without any kind of temporary connections. And this is all for the assembled circuit on the breadboard. By the way, I just realized that there is an error in this schematic. In particular, this connection between this point and this point should not be there, should not exist at all, because otherwise it will bring the collector directly to ground and the circuit will not work. So this is eliminated, and the schematics I will provide on the eleneasy.com website will not have this error in them. So a quick test now to see if the VCA works as expected. So let's start on the Theremin. The VCA is already powered. Here is the basic sound of the Theremin. We can just modulate it. But in particular, if I go close to the antenna, you see that the sound disappears. So that is exactly the effect that we wanted to obtain, and so it seems like the VCA is working just fine. And now, here are some images of the assembly of the VCA on the Theremin perf board. At this point, the majority of the complicated parts of the theremin are completed, and in fact the instrument is basically ready to be played. However, we want to add one more amplification stage to use with an earplug, so we can hear the note emitted by the theremin even if the volume is at its lowest. This will help in finding the right notes when playing the theremin. We will go through the design and assembly of this last stage in the next theremin video, but the theremin videos will not end with that. What we have done so far is building a prototype of the theremin itself. This prototype taught us the pros and cons of the design, so now we can make it even better. Therefore, in further videos, we will talk on how to make the design better, and, at the end, we will develop a final schematic for the theremin that can be built on a PCB to make it overall more reliable and easy to assemble. With that, I thank you for following me up to this point with the Theremin episodes, and, more in general, to follow my channel. Please don't forget to subscribe if you didn't do that already. See you soon with the next video, and in the meantime, happy experiments!